Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for visiting Energy Rising. My name is Jenea Bueller, and today is Therapy Thursday. And so today, the topic that I would like to talk about is obsessive thinking. And so if you have ever struggled with thinking obsessively or having like looping thinking, or just like not be, a lot of people talk about like not being able to shut their head off or overthinking or there's a lot of stuff out there about kind of the ways that we live so much from our minds. And then maybe this video is for you. So I want to kind of offer the way that I like to help people in therapy and ways that I have found for myself to overcome that kind of obsessive thinking. And so I want to start by saying that I am of the belief that turning to obsessive thinking is really just a coping strategy. And so everything that I'm going to say today in this video is really with the idea that maybe you're turning to obsessive thinking as a way to cope with something. And so kind of thinking about it from that perspective. I mean, even just thinking about for yourself, like when you turn to obsessive thinking, is it because there's something that's uncomfortable that's going on for you? Like, are you obsessively thinking about the same kinds of things over and over again? Like, is it the same kinds of topics? Is it like things that you obsessively think about yourself? Do you turn on yourself and like have this obsessive self-talk? Is it obsessive thinking about other people? And so generally, like when people come in to see me for therapy specifically, and one of their concerns is obsessive thinking, I like to kind of talk about the, their experience with having emotions or, what they were taught about emotions. And I don't really just like outright ask those questions, although sometimes I will. It's more just kind of exploring what that, what their internalized experience was about like what emotions mean. And generally, I have found that when people obsessively think, they're usually like, I don't want to say highly emotional, because I think that we all have a certain like heightened amount of emotion, right? Emotion to me is really just energy that is just trying to move. And so generally, like people who overthink, when they have emotions, they're generally like pretty strong emotions. And they usually are using that overthinking to try to avoid. And so when working with someone, what I'm usually doing is trying to create a new pattern of catching themselves in that looping thinking. And instead of oftentimes like people will come into me and they've tried all kinds of things. They've tried like repatterning their thinking, just thinking about positive stuff, right? And I always say, like, you can't think your way out of obsessive thinking. If you try to think yourself out of obsessive thinking, you're continuing the obsessive thinking. And I think about things in terms of energy, being a therapist and also a Reiki master, and having a shamanic practice and using, different esoteric techniques and stuff in the work that I do. I think that I think of things in terms of like the way the energy moves in our body. And oftentimes when I work with people who have obsessive thinking, they have a lot of their energy really stuck up in this part of their head. And so their head and their like crown chakra is often very active, very full. It's like this is moving all the time. And people will tell me, yeah, I mean, my head never shuts off, is what people say. And then as I come down into this area, generally it's like a little bit more closed off and there's nothing going on in the heart space. Or it goes like I've worked with people who it's like their heart will be really open and then it closes and then this opens, and it's just like has had become very apparent to me over time the way that that is used as a defense against, feeling some kind of vulnerable feeling or emotion. And that comes with all kinds of stories about what emotions mean and all of that. It's, I think that we have really been taught in our world that emotions are bad. That we have not really been taught how to necessarily like have our emotions. And again, I really believe that emotions are just this energy, and it's like moving through us. And so what we're taught a lot of times when we're young through like the different messages that we get, and we all do this, just as people, it's like, um, you know, we, though, when we were young, probably got messages like, your emotions are too much for me in some kind of a way. Like, if you're like crying really loud, you're asked to be quiet, or even, something like violent happens. And so we internalize that as these emotions are bad and I need to stop letting these move. I believe that really like the healthier thing that we could learn is, how do we let those emotions move? How do we let that energy move through us? How do we let ourselves emote that emotion, like to have some kind of an expression, to allow it to be felt, and not have to get stuck there. Just let it move, and so a lot of times that's kind of what's happening, is people have gotten this message that those emotions are unsafe, they're scary, they're bad, they make other people uncomfortable, right? There's like all kinds of stories. And so thinking about for yourself, what are the stories that you have around emotion? That's a really important question to ask yourself when you are somebody who thinks obsessively. To, instead of just thinking about your thinking, I want you to like really actually kind of consider instead, how were you taught about feeling? And how deeply do you feel? Are you an emotional person? Do you try to keep that emotion to yourself? How do you feel about the emotions that you have coming up? So like, are there certain kinds of emotions that make you uncomfortable? Were you taught that like anger is bad? Are you leery of like feeling joy? Are you, it can be really a vast experience for a lot of people. And so I want you to ask yourself those questions. What were you taught about feeling? What kinds of feelings are uncomfortable for you? And, how do you feel when you have feelings come up? And if the answer is, well, I don't know, that's a good indication that this video might be for you. If the answer is that you were taught that feelings were like would hurt someone else, they're dangerous, if you're afraid of your feelings, it could be that you're turning to your overthinking as a defense. And now, when I think about defenses, and this is kind of the way that I operate in most of the work that I do, that I really believe that the way to, the word healing to me, I want to just kind of go off on a little tangent for just a second, because what I was going to say is the way to heal. The word healing to me is super interesting, because I actually kind of think of it more just as like being in alignment with my authentic self, right? That's what healing is to me. So, I think that the way to really get into alignment with my authentic self, and this is kind of how I feel, in how I operate in therapy. And this is the way that I often help people through like a multitude of things, is really about having loving compassion for all the parts of yourself. And so thinking about that and like having this defense where you're going to your mind, just kind of like shifting the mindset a little bit of like, it's not really that I think too much, that's like a judgmental kind of a statement. Like, I'm crazy, those kinds of things are actually judging the defense that you have. And what I think is more helpful is instead to go, oh, this thinking that I'm having, this thinking pattern, it's like showing up for me for a reason. It's here to give me some kind of a message. It's trying to help me in some kind of a way, because that's really what a defense is about. So I want you to, for a second, just kind of check in with yourself and about like, When you find yourself in that obsessive thinking, like looping pattern, whatever that looks like for you, obsessively thinking about the same thing over and over, or thinking about everything, or thinking about particular things, I want you to just for a second, like imagine what that's like and kind of the way that it feels in your body. Like, where do you feel that? I'm guessing it's probably like up in your head. But kind of getting in touch with that and sort of the, maybe the vibration of it, the speed of it, how heavy or light it feels when you go to that place. And I want you to really get in touch with that. Just kind of, do you hear the voices or those thoughts like in a certain voice? Is it fast? Is it slow? You know, just kind of like, I want you to pick out some of those the qualities of that energy that's kind of moving through you, not thinking. And the reason for that is so that the next time that this happens, that you have those flags that flag to you, oh, this is the defense coming up, right? And that's what I want you to start telling yourself, is instead of I'm being crazy, I'm obsessively thinking, I need to think positive things, I want you to be like, oh, flag, I'm defending against something, right? A defense is coming up. And instead, to have love and compassion and care for that defense, and to say, oh, like this defense is coming up, I'm turning to my mind energy because I'm in avoidance of something. I'm trying to defend against something. I wonder what that is. And even to just kind of like take a couple of deep breaths. And so like just breathing in as much air as you can, and then breathing it all the way out. And all the way in. And all the way out. And all the way in. And all the way out. And you know, that kind of, those breaths really help us to become present in more of this area. Just bringing air into the lungs kind of like brings our attention into this place in the body. And this is oftentimes, you know, where, emotions live in our body. And our body is really the translator of our emotions. It is like our physical body is oftentimes, it's tied to our emotional body, and it's where our emotional body is like sending those signals to us in places in our body. So just kind of getting in touch with that and saying like, okay, so how do I feel right now? And just kind of doing a little search through your body, even scanning down through the head, through the face, down through the neck and the shoulders and the chest, and the stomach and the back, down your legs, all the way to your feet. Noticing if there's a place in your body where maybe you're feeling a lot of attention, and then bringing your attention there. Like, what's calling out to you? You know, and as I'm doing this, I'm kind of feeling some tension here in this area. Yeah, it's kind of like not in the solar plexus, but kind of off to the side a little bit, which I might go off on a thing about maybe what that could mean for somebody in particular. But just kind of leaning into that and saying, what is this? And even just kind of like sending a signal to that place, to this, wherever that emotion is for you, or wherever that tension is for you. Maybe it's in your chest. Maybe feel it in your stomach, your shoulders. Just kind of sending a signal to that place and saying, what is this trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me right now? What are you trying to tell me? And just kind of, you know, this isn't necessarily an easy practice when you first start doing it, but just kind of calling the attention back and saying, again, what are you trying to tell me? And noticing what happens to that tension. When you just say, what are you trying to tell me? What happens Does it get stronger? Does it get duller? And oftentimes, just by giving it attention, it can kind of calm a little bit. See if you can get any kind of insight. It might come through words or images or memories or feelings. Just being present with that, with whatever it is that comes up. Maybe breathing into it a little. And again, just, really putting your attention on that place in your body. That's all that you're doing. It's just kind of really giving the attention to it. Okay. So if you can discover a little bit of what that need is, like, kind of feeling down here, this is like, I feel like maybe who I am is not okay, or, being curious about that a little bit. And here it's like, I feel afraid. I feel unsafe. Kind of like finding that in yourself. And then I want you to just kind of breathe into that again, whatever that is, and just kind of like letting it be there and just saying, okay, that is a feeling that's here, right? And then maybe if asking again, like what it needs, what do you need from me right now? Maybe it's saying, I need some attention, I need some affection, I need to feel safe, I need you to protect me. Just kind of like really listening to your internal self about what it is that you need in this moment. And then maybe imagining yourself actually giving that. And maybe you're holding out your hands and offering it to yourself. Or even you could even put your hand on that place and feel yourself pushing it through your hands. Or, imagine yourself standing in front of yourself giving that to you. Maybe if it's attention, just kind of looking at yourself in the way that it feels like somebody looks at you when they give you attention. Sending that vibration of attention to yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. It's okay if you feel like you need some attention. If you're feeling like you're needing some safety, it's like, what does safety feel like? Really bringing up that feeling of what it feels like to feel really safe, if you know, and offering it to yourself. Saying, here, kind of really bringing that feeling of safety into yourself. And and then I think also just kind of like thanking that place in your body for being open, for telling you what it needs, for allowing you to meet that need, really sending gratitude. And I want you to kind of like come back now to this video, and I want you to kind of check in with yourself about where your energy is now, and what happened for your kind of like the energy in your mind or your obsessive thinking and that. So it is really difficult, I think, to really attune to how you're feeling and to think obsessively. And if you've ever noticed things like if you've ever just like had a complete breakdown where you're just really like sobbing emotionally, it's really hard to obsessively think while you're doing that. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't think about things, right? You are thinking about things, but it's in more of a releasing kind of a way, right? As you're releasing that emotion. And so I think about it a lot in the ways that like the energy of our head and heart are often in this battle. And I have a lot of beliefs about why that is, and the things that happen to us in this world, and the way that our world is like so focused on masculine energy and really thinking. And I think that thinking has a really great place, and I love thinking, and I'm very much a mind-based person, and also it's like this kind of like emotion and our feminine energy and our like connection to our heart and the way that we feel is such an important part of us. And the reason that we get going on that obsessive thinking and it feels so unnatural is because it is. It doesn't feel good because it is not natural to have all of your energy up here. And so rather than trying to stuff this down, to shut it off, to be mad at it, it's like having gratitude is trying to protect you from feeling the things that are in here, which are vulnerable. So like having gratitude for that. And each time that you can kind of just pull a little bit of that attention, a little bit of your attention here, because again, where our attention goes is where our energy goes. And that includes within ourselves, right? That's not just a saying that is like, for external things, it's also internal. So like, if I bring my attention to how I'm feeling, I'm spreading it out, right? And then I have less of that attention up here in my mind. And so I hope that this video has been helpful for you. I hope it's been something that you can use. Just try. It isn't like, it takes practice to get used to kind of like even like considering this sort of way of thinking, it's a little bit different, right? And so, and also just the practice of like going here when all of our energy is calling us up here can be really hard. It's like, it can be like you have to pull yourself back over and over. So just doing it for little bits at a time, if you can just pay attention just for a second, even with deep breaths, like when we took that deep breath in and breathed it out, we're like calling attention here, right? And every time that we tried to breathe into like what we're feeling, we're calling that attention here. And each time that we do that, we're just pulling a little bit more of that energy down. So I hope that makes sense for you. I hope this is something that you can use. And if you find it helpful or, are in alignment with this kind of way of thinking, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Also, I am taking suggestions for different like topics that you'd like to talk about. So whether that's about different kind of like therapeutic techniques using like Western therapy, or whether that's about energy or shamanic practices, or all like, it's really just like a broad range of things. So if there are topics that you'd like to hear more about, like things that you struggle with, things that would be helpful to see videos about, I would love to make those videos for you. Just let me know what they are in the comments. And thank you for being here and for subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time.